has done the last 2 hours, and he's doing a little bit of a jig here. And my special guest, Carmel Murphy. So welcome, Carmel.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to be here.
So lovely to have you. Thank you for driving up this morning. So we're going to be diving into a few different things. This radio station is all based around mental health, and this radio show is specifically about how business owners have overcome mental, social, physical, all the different types of adversities to be able to keep going in their businesses, because it is very, very challenging at times. So just before we play our next song, I would love for you to let everybody know the name of your business and how your business helps people.
Yeah, the name of my business is The Communication Queen, and I used to laugh and say it's all about communication, but that's too broad. So I help business owners and entrepreneurs to stand out and showcase their business and products without all the spray and pray marketing.
Fantastic. And I have been a first-hand witness of that as a business colleague of yours, and it's such a valuable service that you give. And we are part of the same business community, and I really appreciate all the mentoring that you give the members of our community in respect to being able to assist them along that way. Michael, I haven't actually asked the question, but Carmel and Michael... I'm trying to say Michael the way that you think it's said. Actually, Carmel's from Ireland and Michael is from Scotland. So how do you say Michael, Carmel?
I could say Mihal. Mihal, which is Gaelic.
That's Gaelic Irish. Yeah. So I've had quite a few friends from over the sea say to me, Mihal.
Mihal.
It's Mihal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're being serious. Okay, but...
Yeah.
But if you say...
we're it's Gaelic. Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
if you say... All right, say...
No, I just say Michael.
Thank you.
Michael.
Thank you.
Michael. See? Not Michael. But Mihal is...
All right, when I say Michael, does it sound like I'm saying it like you just said it to you? To your ears?
No, because it's Australian. It's one of the beautiful things about communication, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
It's so varied. But we know each other. We actually already know each other, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So how do you know one another?
So, funny enough, we share a common friend, and that friend is also their very own business owner, and is the... I think all these queens like to hang about with each other because she is known as the search queen.
The search queen.
She is. Sonia is known as the search queen, and I gave Sonia her opportunity when she landed within Perth to bring her into the industry that she now thrives in as a CEO and owns her own business within today. So she's always been like a little sister. And, you know, I've always kind of like helped her out in that vein. And then over the other end...
I'm the auntie.
You're the auntie?
But I've known Sonia...
You mean auntie?
See, there it goes again. But I've known Sonia, again, through business, but in a different way. And I think you actually came over to see our garden at one stage because we grow all our own
So then
stuff.
what happened was she was celebrating her 3rd year in business.
That's right.
For a party. And obviously, if you're going to celebrate, you're going to invite your brother and your auntie, aren't you?
Exactly.
And that's where we then met. And then we striked up a conversation because, again, you know, one of the benefits of being interested in people is that you're genuinely interested in everything that they do. And I was at a point of wanting to, because at this point in time as well, this was real kind of, you know, let's just say stuff was going down. Stuff was going down.
I am intrigued.
And I thought to myself, I'm going to have to go off grid here and grow my own food. And that's when you advised, you went, guess what? I grow all my own food. I was like, you do not. And you invited me down to your home.
Yeah.
And I went.
I fed you chocolate.
And she fed everything. Fed me everything.
Did you have some honey?
I had everything.
Yes.
And it was beautiful because, I'm not being funny. When I say you grow your own, I was imagining that you would have to have, like, you know, a farm, acres and acres and acres. But you don't have acres. And you've managed to create such a, like, complete ecosystem
Yeah.
in respect to have. How much is that?
It's 1,400 square meters is actually what we have. So we've 3 gardens. One is a big, huge garden, and the other 2, one is more herbs and lettuce, and one is more kind of bigger trees.
Yeah,
and
because
then
they've
we
all
have
got their own ecosystem, and
yeah,
then you've got.
and then we have frogs are there automatically, but we have ducks, chickens, geese, and more recently turkeys. You didn't
I
see
didn't
those.
see the turkeys. Yeah,
So there
you-
w- there was
bees
a-
as well. You have
Yeah,
Sorry,
we
what
have
was the last thing?
turkeys.
Oh, turkeys.
Yeah, turkeys. versus
Turkeys.
turkey. A turkey.
And yeah, we have a few beehives as well. And last night there was maybe a little bit of killing going on, but
Oh.
yeah. So
From you
it
to
is
them or
about
them to each
no,
other?
it's about a sustainability. So sometimes we do actually kill cull some of the
Sounds a lot
birds.
nicer.
So put it this way, there's duck liver pate coming up soon because I'll have to be making some of it. But
But yeah, I
yeah.
was so intrigued, and I got the opportunity not only to go down and view, but also eat. And and every now and then you just kind of go, oh,
here's some
here's
chocolate.
some this, here's some this, here's some, and I'm going, oh my goodness, oh, this is great.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? So did Carmel give you the tour, or did David give you the
Both.
tour?
I had the special.
Mostly
I
David.
had both.
Mostly David.
No, but yeah. And one thing I will say that I learned on that, not just how you do everything, but also that when you're growing bananas from a banana tree, it only can give you one kind of set
Fruit.
of bananas,
Yeah.
and then that's it done.
Yeah.
And then I was like, so then they were chopping off all the bits of the banana tree right down to the very bottom, but then using all of the banana tree for then the fertilizer again
Yeah,
and
compost
and
and
composting it
Yeah,
back in.
yeah.
So that's how we know each other. And then I was actually privileged to then be a guest on your show
Yes,
as well.
I interviewed you.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So yeah, that's how we all. And
So
Perth
beautiful.
is very small.
Yes, like a big town.
Yeah, and especially if you're a queen, you're kind of sitting at the top of town. So you aren't you? You're kind of like you can't
Looking
help but
down
go, look how shiny her crown is. I wonder what she does.
Why did you not, when I was asking for new names for my show, why did you not suggest Queen Lisa
Oh
then?
my goodness, imagine that, eh? All we need is
Is
one
it
more.
too
We've got a
late?
full deck
Yeah,
of
there you
cards.
go.
Yeah.
That's it.
You can maybe change it if you want. But yeah, that's how we know each other.
That's all right. I think Lisa's listening is good because it really makes me live up to it, and I've really got to stop and listen, don't I? Okay, let's go to another song. We are going to play "Cover Me in Sunshine" by Pink and Her Little Girl. I love that song. That just so resonates with me. Do you love that song too, Carmel?
Oh, absolutely. And it's hard not to sing along with it, isn't it?
I can't sing for nuts, but I kind of just sing in my head. Actually, it's one thing that I would love to be able to learn to do.
Yeah, me too. And
Yeah.
it's that you're listening and you're singing away at the top of your voice, thinking it's fine, and you can only cringe and think what the other people are hearing, especially if you have earphones on.
What is it about singing voices? Like, what I don't get is this. Sometimes you will have somebody that has a terrible speaking voice. I mean, shocking. You can't even, it grates on you. But then they'll sing and it's like it comes from another place. And then you'll have somebody like me. I consider that I've got a reasonable speaking voice, but as soon as I try and sing, there's no pitch there whatsoever.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It does come from a different place.
Yes.
It's the tonality. It's more, a lot of singers I know will tell you it's more actually to do with the breathing than it is anything else. So it comes from deeper down within you. But
Yeah.
my dad was able to sing. In Ireland, quite often we go to people's houses and, there'll be a sing-along or whatever. And my dad was able to sing. And my poor mum thought she was able to sing. And as a family, we used to tease, oh my God, my poor mother and say, oh no, here she goes again. Because in her head, and it was that auditory thing in her head, she was singing in the right tune. But to us external, we're going, no.
Yeah.
Please stop.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
But it should be joyful, shouldn't it? So for, whoever's doing the singing, it should be joyful.
But I think I've heard people sing that are atrocious at singing, but they are full of joy. And you just kind of join in the joy with them. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
Think of church singing even. It doesn't matter, but the whole voice, the whole choir singing together can bring out.
I think
noise.
also too, we can do so much harm to children. Like I'm sure I used to sing wholeheartedly as a child until the day that I got told that I really couldn't sing, and then that makes you, lose a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
So we had Michael Daisley here until a few minutes ago, and he had his radio show, and he normally does that Destiny's Performance with Kyle, who you also know, between 8 and 10. So Kyle is unwell today, so Michael was doing the show, and we were very lucky to have him stay here for a little while and join with us. So thank you, Michael, for that. And Michael and Carmel were just talking about Carmel's garden. Carmel and David have an amazing garden, and I've been lucky enough to have a tour on more than one occasion as well. So you were brought up in Ireland, Carmel?
Yes, I'm from a little town called Wicklow in Ireland, which part of the county is known as the Garden of Ireland. Funny we're talking about gardens. But I was brought up in a small, tiny terraced house, and we had no garden. We had nothing. My mum was from more of a farming background, and I always remember she used to have cactus and busy Lizzie. They were the only plants I knew of. So I was never brought up with growing things, but I always wanted to be able to have my own little veggie garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many siblings have you got?
I had 4 sisters, so 5 daughters altogether. I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest,
yes,
are you?
I'm the baby. And we lived in the terraced house. When my parents moved into it, it was one up, one down. That was it. No front garden, no back garden. There was a yard out the back. And my dad built onto it over the years, but it still ended up a 2-bedroom house. And when we sold it just the last couple of years after my parents passed away, after all the additions, it was 57 square metres was the size of the house. And there was 7 of us living there. So no wonder it was like, here's your towel, here's your bathers, go on to the beach and we'll see you when it's dinner time.
But you probably didn't know any different.
No, not a bit. And in that time, we would have been, I think, classified as upper middle class kind of thing. We weren't, paupers or anything like that. We were the norm, and my dad had a really good job because he worked for what would be classified as a government job, a good pensionable job. He worked for Telecom Éireann, which was like Telstra or something here. Yeah.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because so many people are struggling mentally these days for so many different reasons. But when you look at even the way that children are brought up now, so I was brought up I'm born and bred West Australian, so I was brought up in Gosnells, and our first home was in Lismon Street. Probably won't mean a great deal to anyone, but it's not far from the Gosnells train station. And there used to be I think our home used to be where the tyre repair ended up. But I've got memories of living in an old home, and I was only 4 or 5 at the time, but we shared a bedroom, and we shared bunk beds. And I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
And that was just the way it was. And I've got some
Absolutely.
of the happiest memories of that.
Yeah. And we were all, except for my eldest sister, we were all born in the house. So the 2 bedrooms one was my mum and dad's bedroom. The other one was the 5 daughters. We even had a cupboard. We used to call it the knickers cupboard because it was first up, best dressed. All the underwear was in that cupboard.
So it was literally first in, best dressed.
My dad used to say to us, don't let anyone know your business. He never knew. Sometimes we'd meet each other in the street and go, get my bloody dress off you.
So long as you weren't trying to take each other's knickers off.
Well, we didn't try and take them off, but sometimes you'd have a really good one you had bought, and it was my mother would wash it and put it in with all the others. And if you didn't get it, you didn't get it. Yeah.
That's amazing. And what was the age difference between the girls?
So from eldest to youngest is 13 years in total. So my eldest sister, then there's 4 years, is my next sister, then 4 years, and there was twins, and then 5 years was me. I laughed and said, I think I was the afterthought, because after they had twins, I'm sure they thought no more, but I don't know. But yeah, so I'm the little baby, but I'm the stirrer. I'm the troublemaker.
I had 2 children, and then my third one was unexpected, so I always call her the gift,
right?
Rather than the accident, because I think it's so much nicer just to say the gift.
Absolutely.
So being the eldest, I'm interested to know, and I know you don't know any other experience, but what was it like being the youngest? Would you recommend it?
That's an interesting question. Probably say no. I think I've done a lot of personal development and a lot of growth in that. And so in hindsight, looking back, I think the youngest quite often feels like they don't completely fit in. Because for me, my 4 other siblings had already done everything. So there was no special place for me. So as a child, they could, jump on a higher step than I could. So I always felt not good enough because I couldn't reach up with them. So I was always trying to do something new or trying to keep up with them. To them, I was just a spoiled brat.
That's really interesting because when I asked you about what you'd like to speak to today, you said it's not okay comparing how we do business or life, and you wanted to speak about the social constructs and expectations. And what I find really interesting is so often whatever's not okay with us now, it doesn't come just out of anywhere, does it?
No.
Like it's always there. And I know that you've done a lot of personal development and you've also experienced in a lot of different modalities. So that's really interesting that that was your experience growing up.
Yeah, I would never have been able to language that at the time. I always had this feeling of I didn't belong. And I always had this feeling of I wasn't enough because my sisters could and I couldn't. And as it happens, again in hindsight, being that 2020 vision, that's why I was always striving to do something. At 17, I moved to America to live. I was always, there has to be something else. It can't be just this.
Yes.
And that was the driver for me, sometimes in a negative way, because in order to get attention, as we know, sometimes with children, there'll be negative stuff. So if things were going along nicely, I'd shake the tree in some way, shape or form to get attention from my mom or my dad or my sisters because I felt lost.
Because everybody wants to be significant, don't they?
Well, it is one of the core needs that we need to, for our mere survival, we need to know that we're safe and that somebody thinks we're important.
Yeah, and that's that was one of the big takeaways for me working in an aged care home, was if I could go in there and make somebody feel like they mattered or they were important, I'd done my job.
Yeah.
And the other thing that really came home to me was how little it actually takes to be able to do that. It's quite significant.
The biggest gift, and again, only discovered this over the years, but the biggest gift you can give someone is time, is to hold space and be totally present with them in that moment. To just listen. I had somebody the other day and they were visiting in my house. The next thing I know, they're in tears. And I'm like, oh. And it was purely because I was present and I was listening and this person felt heard in that moment. And they hadn't been able to release that. And then they were going, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm going, don't be sorry. They felt they were burdening me with their stuff. And I was like, no, because it's not my stuff. And I understand it's just how you view the world. And that's okay. And that person just, as I said, burst into tears. But for me, I felt honoured that they felt safe enough to do that.
Wow. Yeah. I'm listening.
Yeah, I know.
Lisa's listening.
I'm going to go talk, Lisa, talk.
Well, and with that, if you are listening, I think that so often, and I am as guilty of it as the next person, I'm an organizer, I'm a planner, I've got a to-do list, and I rush through it, and sometimes it's a matter of like taking time for people because sometimes people can't wait, but the thing on your to-do list can. So with that, let's go to another song, and when we come back, we're going to learn all about how and why Carmel started her business, the Communication Queen. Let's have a bit of Purple Rain. Wow, that was that was really boppy music, wasn't it, Carmel?
I was just about to start doing a dance around the office here.
Well, maybe I should have played it a little bit longer. That would have amused me. So I'm joined by Carmel Murphy, the Communication Queen, this morning. And we have Martin Ball coming on a phone call in the next half an hour as well. So we have that to look forward to, and we can hear his story as well. And I believe Martin is listening at the moment. He was unable to join us in the studio because he's unwell today. So hoping you're feeling better and your voice is fine for radio. So we caught up the other day on a phone call, and I think it was 45, 50 minutes, probably an hour. So I don't think Martin will have any trouble talking on the radio on Lisa's listening show. So Carmel, we've been talking about you were born in Ireland and you were the youngest of 5 children. And you used to share everything, including the knicker cupboard. And it's going to make me giggle every time I see you now. So thank you for sharing that. But it really is testament to the fact that really we have so much these days.
Yeah.
And you can have such good mental health with being brought up with so little if you've got family around you and you've got community and
support. 100%. And that's exactly what it was. Like if you misbehaved, somebody on the street would see you and treat you almost like they were your parent. Like when you think about it, we went to the seaside with a towel and a bathers, and as long as we were home by dark, it was okay.
Yeah.
Because they knew there was enough people around that would be watching and supporting us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't know any different, did we?
No.
It was just the way it was. And we're very similar age. I think I was born just a few years before you, after you, maybe after you, whatever. But I was brought up in the suburbs of Perth and probably had a similar upbringing.
With a lot more sunshine.
With a lot more sunshine, I'm sure. So you went to America at the age of 17.
Yes.
And then how did you end up in Australia?
Oh, look, that was some years later. So I was married to my ex-husband was a plumber. And I had an uncle out here in Australia many years ago. And he came home for the first time in 30 years. And I was like, oh, this new thing, let me see it. And he actually tried to convince me not to come.
To Australia?
Yeah.
What was his reason?
He didn't want to be responsible if it didn't work out, I think, more than anything. So he was like the dad of any of us that came out here on holidays and whatever. And he passed away there about 18 months ago. But it just stuck in there with me, and it was the time in Ireland of a recession. So it was very hard to get any work or anything like that. So myself and my ex-husband, we couldn't come out on the work and holiday visa because we already had kids at this stage. So we went through the process, and then I was pregnant, and then we had to wait longer. But it was a 2-year process to actually get permission to come out here. And a big part of that was because he was a plumber, and Australians needed plumbers at that time.
Ah, and what year was that?
We arrived here in January 89.
And did you have children at that time?
I had a 6-year-old and an 8-month-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that would have been a very trying times, I would have imagined. I don't like flying at the best of times, let alone...
Yeah. Well, that was in the time when, you know, you'd fly somewhere to Australia and the perception was that they were never going to see you again. We're never going to see our family again in Ireland. So it wasn't like now, you know, you hop on a flight and you go back and forwards quite easily. So it was a huge wrench. I mean, I had lived in my hometown, five of us, and, you know, 2 lived up the road from my mum, 2 lived down the road from my mum, and another one lived across the road from my mum. So I tore the family apart. I was the first one to leave my hometown.
Yeah, so that would have been absolutely huge.
Yeah, and while I had my uncle out here, like he had, bless him, rented a house for us and had some basic furniture in it and everything when we arrived, but that was it, like, you know, and they were a little bit away from us. And I remember we got a car and the car blew up, and then we got burgled within the first few months, and I got bitten by a bloody spider. I thought, I want to go home, I never want to be here again. So it was quite traumatic, and with 2 children, because who do you trust with your kids? You've had your sisters, you've had everyone. You know, it was quite interesting. When I look back on it, and I go, I don't know how I stayed, but I did.
Yeah. And would you agree that it's the tough times that really help you to learn who you are and what you're made of?
The very quick answer is yes. But I don't think in the moment of that tough time that you realise that. It's afterwards you look back on it and go, oh yeah, I got through that, I can get through anything. But when you're in the moment, and I think quite often we forget, and that's how we compare ourselves to each other. We look at somebody else that we perceive is successful or whatever we want to put on that, and we go, oh, they can cope with it. What's wrong with me? I can't cope with it. But every single thing that happens or experience that you have is real to that person in that moment. Mm-hmm. So you might look at somebody and go, oh, for God's sake, I dealt with that and it was easy. But to them, you don't know their life. You don't know their experience levels. You don't know their pain levels. So we have to be very compassionate, I think, to other people, of allowing that wherever they are is where they are, and it is real to them.
Yeah, and that whole non-judgment thing.
Yeah, I kind of, I argue with that a little bit. Only because I hear people all the time saying, oh, I'm so non-judgmental, and I'm calling bullshit on that, because as a human being, you have to have judgment in terms of, is somebody tall, small? Do I procreate with them? Do I kill them? Do I run away from them? We have to have that. It's part of our survival. It's being able to suspend our judgment in that moment from our beliefs, to be really present for that person, to allow that and understand whatever they're feeling. Like, I had words with somebody the other day, and there were some heated words, but not in a bad way, because I understood in that moment that's how they perceived the situation.
Yeah.
It wasn't wrong, it wasn't right. And then we calmed down and we said, okay, well, I'm sorry you feel like that, this whatever conversation we had around it. But when you can come from a place of compassion, and also for me, the biggest learning I've ever had is to be able to come from a place of trust within myself, that no matter who says what or whatever happened, that I trust I've got me. That can be very powerful.
Yeah, and it's a skill that a lot of people have not learned, isn't it?
Because I don't know of any school that teaches it, do you?
Yeah, that's true. They teach a lot of useless stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more life skills needed.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your business communication queen. I'm guessing that you didn't rock up to Australia and all of a sudden go into business. You worked in hospitality, as I understand it.
Yeah, I actually started working in hospitality in my hometown in a hotel, as in for weddings and summer seasons and things like that. That was it. And I used to get paid £3 every time I worked, not per hour, every time I worked. So every 4 or 5 hour shift was £3. And when we came to Australia, my ex-husband, as I said, was a plumber. So it was like, well, if we need some extra income, what can I do? And it was working the odd shifts to him. And I actually worked in Toyota factory for a little while first, but I worked the afternoon shift so he could come home, take the kids, and I'd work. And then I started working again in pubs, just pouring a beer. Then I was waitressing, and I worked my way up then to supervisory, to being a manager, and so on. And that's what I did for many, many years.
Yeah. So how did you become the communication queen? How did that unfold?
That's a funny story, because it sounds like, what, you were doing this. So I became a single mom during some of that time.
Yeah.
And was always petrified if I didn't work hard, because I had this belief I had to work hard, head down, ass up, you have to work hard. If I didn't work 60, 70 hours a week and get the money in, I couldn't keep a roof over their head. But then as the kids got older, and I always remember I worked as a state manager for a recruitment company at this stage, which was a hospitality recruitment company. We had an after-hours phone. So this was in the really high time here in Perth, where we had 450 temp staff. We also did permanent staff placement. So the phone would ring hot. I need a chef, I need a bartender, I need a cleaner. And I remember distinctly having the after-hours phone, and I was the state manager, so I had a state manager phone, and obviously I had my own phone. And we'd have a list of all these people that could work, that had, they were on standby, and the phone was running hot this weekend. And then they couldn't get through on that phone, so they started ringing the state manager phone, because they couldn't get that, and that was running hot. And the next thing, my personal one started ringing, because some of the people I had worked with had my personal number. And I remember standing there crying and going, oh my God, I can't keep doing this. There has to be something else. So I started kind of searching. I didn't even know then, as much as I would now, how to research anything, to be honest. But I started searching, what else could I do? And I came across coaching. And I thought, I can talk to people, I can help them, I do that anyway, and they're going to pay me for it, sign me up.
Yep.
And that's how that journey started, was to learn coaching. And it was through, there was a lot at this stage. I used to fly to Melbourne to do all the training, so it wasn't just here. There was a lot online. So I was doing webinars and all sorts of everything before a lot of my friends even heard the word webinars.
So you were a groundbreaker. What year was this?
Oh, gosh. It would have been back in 2008.
Okay.
7 or 8.
Yeah. So about
when
15 years
it.
ago.
Yeah. And then it was through that. So, you do all this, and it opens you up to a world you never realised was there. And you start attracting like-minded people. But one of the people who was amazing to me, I did a retreat she ran many years ago. It was the first one. I went in Melbourne. It was my first one of these, deep retreats where they really dig into your stuff and you're talking about stuff, then you're up dancing and all of this sort of stuff. And oh gosh, it drove me nuts. At one stage, she nicknamed me the Ice Queen at the stage because I had
still a queen though.
but I had actually built up such a persona of pretending that everything was okay because I was a mom. I had to keep all the balls in the air. So, and hospitality was a great teacher at this, is put a good face on.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what's going on behind it. So it had become entrenched in me as such a habit that's why she nicknamed me the Ice Queen, because I couldn't even let my emotions out.
Yes.
I didn't know how to tap into them, so therefore I couldn't release them. I couldn't work with them. Yeah. And it was in a deep coaching session with her, many moons after that, we did a lot of visualization of what do you want, what do you not want, and the name, the Communication Queen, was born, because I've always been really fascinated by how people communicate and how they don't communicate, because we're always communicating, even if we're not talking.
Yeah.
And how people get the wrong end of the stick and how it can become this big blow up of maybe a family splitting or all this sort of stuff. So that's how the name was actually born.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how long, so when did you register your business? Like how long have you been operating like you are now?
The Communication Queen as a domain name, for example, would have been back in maybe 2010. Yeah.
So quite a few years.
Yeah. But originally when I did it, I was still working in hospitality. So my passion was around leadership and team building. Again, around the communication. How can you get a team to work cohesively together? Which is way different to what it is now. But the name seemed to always be transferable to the different skills. So now it's more about a marketing perspective, how you communicate to a client for them to know that you're the person that can help them most. So the name still stays, although the underneath it has changed, but not changed, if you know what I mean. Like it was about teams and leadership. Now it's about self-leadership and your own business.
Yeah. So speaking about communication, the world has changed a lot the last couple of years. And because you've got your own business and you're working from home, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you found that much has changed for you with the vaccine mandates coming in and the way that I'm trying to be very
that's okay,
politically correct here?
That's okay, don't worry, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, and I think it goes back to what we were saying, sometimes do the hard times frame who you are. So I had decided to let go of hospitality because I always kind of kept a foot in both camps, I had decided to let it go and really, really work from home way before this. And one of the things I remember being immensely grateful for was that I wasn't still in hospitality when all of this storm started happening and all of the mandates and everything, because I could see all my friends struggling with it and, whether not to. I chose my road, which I respect that other people choose their road in whatever way that is. So for me, it wasn't a huge impact in terms of, because I was already working at home.
Yes, yeah.
It was a huge impact, though, because going to shops and all that sort of thing, I'm a very social person.
Yes.
And even though, so like yourself, Lisa, I chose my path. I chose how I wanted to or not to, and I believe that's everyone's decision. But to go into shops and to be not allowed to go into social situations because of a choice you had made for your health, it did seem very isolating. Yeah. Even though I worked from home, it was certainly very isolating. And because I had done the work I had, and this is purely my perception, I observed a lot, and I could observe how people were being so fearful and how that fear was spreading. And that was heartbreaking. And I made a decision very early because I went down the little bit of a rabbit hole of, oh my God, and I'm scared as well, and what's going to happen?
Yes,
and blah,
yeah.
blah.
And I think if anyone didn't admit to that, they would be lying.
Oh, absolutely.
And
then I kind of put a full stop under it, and I went, hang on, no matter what environment we find ourselves in, we have to find a way to thrive and survive in the environment we find ourselves in. And I made a very conscious decision to come from a place of compassion, no matter what.
Yep.
no matter people's decisions. So all of my family, including I have 3 children, I have my sisters, everything like that. Everyone around me was making the opposite decision to me.
Yeah.
And my actual bottom line to everyone was, I love you more than any of this bull.
Mm-hmm.
So my relationship with you will not change because of that.
Yeah, and it certainly has changed for a lot
Yeah.
of people, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Some people wouldn't have had, and sorry, Lisa, some people wouldn't have had the proverbial, in Ireland we'd say Lee Rothie, but they wouldn't have had the oomph to do that.
yes,
But that comes back to that coming from a place of trust within yourself. That I trust when I've done that. And that's not saying I'm any better than anybody else or anything
you did
like
what
that.
was right for you.
Yeah, but you can't always do that, or people feel they can't when they're in. It's like being a wolf, for example. I don't even know where this is coming from, but anyway, a wolf in a big den of lions. Eventually that wolf will start kind of behaving like the lions, or else he risks being dead. So when they're in that environment, I can see, that's what I mean, I come from a place of compassion. I can see how people made the decisions they did. And
Yes.
yeah, heartbreaking in some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you found that difficult when you didn't have a vaccine passport to show to go to pubs, and I was going to say pubs and clubs, but you don't really look like a club person. But
You'll be
even
surprised, Lisa.
I may be surprised. I'm still getting to know Carmel. I think for me, I'm quite. Most people are surprised to find I'm quite introverted, and I'm not a real party person. I'm certainly not a pub and club person, and I found it more difficult than what I thought I would, not being able to go to my local coffee shop to be able to have a coffee.
It's a sense of, I think, your choice being taken away, and your sense of what we took for granted as a freedom being curtailed.
And feeling like we had been punished.
Yeah.
That was one of the big things for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the regular things that I did, remembering that the weather was a lot better than what it is now, is I'd go to my local and I'd buy some Chinese, and then I would ride my bike. I haven't ridden my bike for a while with this weather either, down to the local park. And I always had company to be able to do that because I'm surrounded by like-minded people. But it was a very, very difficult time, and I think a lot of people may have underestimated as to how difficult it was for those that chose the path less travelled.
And from a mental health perspective, 1,000,000% you are correct. It was very challenging because it's like a tsunami hitting you and you trying to stay upright, and the tsunami keeps just beating against you, and very isolating for people that would have been unlike yourself or myself, that weren't surrounded with like-minded people, that were surrounded with unlike-minded people trying to force their agenda onto them, and that takes a huge toll on your mental health because people feel they're alone. I know even at one stage I was so far down the rabbit hole, I was going, this is damaging my mental health, regardless of, it won't matter what anyone else chooses or says or anything, because I'm going to be a blubbering mess in the corner.
Yes. Yeah, and we do have to choose our own reality, don't we?
Well, I think we actually already do, but we don't realise it's
That's
a choice.
true. That's true.
That's the thing. And people say, and I've had this a lot of time, but you don't understand what's happening to me. It's like, no, I don't. But the only thing I know is you cannot stop what happens to you, but you can choose what you make it mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Carmel, we're going to play a song, and then when we come back, I'd love for you to share with the listeners exactly how you might be of service to them with your business. And I'm looking forward to having Martin on the phone at 11-ish. This is the first time I will have done a phone interview. Carmel, will you stay on while we have Martin on the phone as well?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Right, what song shall we play now? Let's do a bit of Hey Jude.